Hello, I hope you're there. It's the beginning of February already. Where have all those weeks gone? And today is the last day of Christmas. You may find that a bit surprising. After all, when we've opened all our presents and had our turkey and pigs in blankets, we tend to be asking, what's next? But no, Christmas lasts 40 days. And it ends today, the 2nd of February, when the baby Jesus has his 40th birthday. I mean, the 40th day after he was born. Today is called Candlemas. Candlemas. And all over the world today, people are celebrating by lighting candles. So all in all, it's quite a short story, this. Mary and Joseph go up to Jerusalem 40 days after the first Christmas, 40 days after Jesus was born, to present him to the Lord. What this involved, presenting him to the Lord, was taking him in to the temple to see a priest, handing over the price of the ceremony, which wasn't money but a couple of pigeons. Don't ask me what happened to the pigeons. And you say effectively, look, God, here's our newborn first ever son. And God looks down and he says, yeah, wow, lovely. Yes, I can see he's one of mine. Take him back home and look after him for me. And then they'd have been able to walk back home. From Jerusalem to Bethlehem is about 7 miles, a bit like going from here to Reading. If that was all that had happened, we'd probably never have heard this story, but there was something else. There was an old prophet called Simeon. He was in the temple every day. He'd come every day because he was expecting that God was going to send a particular person his way, and he didn't want to miss it. And as soon as he saw Jesus, he realized that this was the person he'd been waiting for all his life. And Simeon said four things, which are remembered to this day. First, he said that Jesus was the light of the world. Jesus was the light of the world and the glory of the world. We'll come back to that. Then that Jesus was going to be the falling and rising of many people. He was going to be the falling and rising of many people. By that, I think he meant that Jesus was going to change the world beyond recognition, and that a lot of people's lives would be affected. Some in ways they liked, others in ways they didn't. And that certainly happened. Probably no other person's ever had such a huge effect on the course of history as Jesus has done. And lastly, he said to Mary, a sword will pierce your soul. A sword will pierce your soul. I think he was predicting what would happen to Jesus many years later when Mary would see her son, Jesus, on the cross being crucified. Let's come back to the light of the world and the glory of the people. It's not really a mystery what that means. Ask any of the grown-ups you know how they'd feel if someone said to them, you're the light of my life. It's a big thing to say that to anyone. You're the light of my life. It means a lot. Imagine someone told you you were the glory of your school, or the glory of your football team, or the Scouts, or whatever. That's a big thing too. Glory of the nation, light of the world. That sounds about right for the son of Joseph and Mary. But what about the light of the world? What would that mean in practice? Well, for a start, and this is important, the people of the time were pretty miserable. They were groaning under the rule of the Romans. They called themselves the people who walked in darkness. The people who walked in darkness. They were hoping for a great light that would make their lives brighter. So that's one thing they might hope for. There's a lot more to light than that. It lets you see, especially in the darkness. It shows you the colours in things. It makes plants grow. It gives you a suntan, helps make your bones strong, and it's good for you to be out in it, unless you overdo it. It tells animals when to hibernate. Light gives you information, carries information, points to information. It makes electricity. It can make us happy. It can create beautiful effects. It gives us our weather. None of these by itself is why he called Christ our light. Christ wasn't somebody who made electricity. He's not somebody who makes your bones grow or gives you a suntan. No, the point is that without light, without the sun, without all the sources of light we have, without all the sources of light we have, no life is possible. Without light, there would be absolutely no life at all on Earth, possibly nowhere else in the universe either. To call Jesus the light of the world is to say that we entirely depend on God for our existence, and Jesus is the one who was sent to make sure it all went right. That's why Jesus is called the light of the world. It's time I read you the story. It's here in St. Luke's Gospel. Jesus, Mary, Joseph, Simeon, and the 2 pigeons. 40 days after he was born, Mary and Joseph brought Jesus up to Jerusalem to present him before the Lord. That is what the law of the Lord requires. They brought with them also 2 pigeons as an offering to the Lord. Now there was a man in Jerusalem named Simeon. He had been told by God that he would not die until he had seen the Christ. As Mary and Joseph brought Jesus in to do for him what the law required, Simeon took the baby in his arms and blessed God with these words, "Now, Lord, I can go in peace. My job is done. These eyes of mine have seen the Lord, the light of the world and the glory of your people." Joseph and Mary were astonished at the things that he had said. Simeon said to them, "Listen, this child has been put here for the falling and the rising of many in Israel. And a sword will go through your heart too." When they had finished everything that the law required, they returned home. Jesus grew and became strong, was full of wisdom, and God's grace was upon him. Our prayer today is going to be a song. You can pray in a song as well as in speech. We'll try it. You may not know it, this particular one, but I can put the words up the screen so you should be able to follow it. I think there's possibly one word in it that may not be familiar to all of you, and that is the word day star. It called Jesus a day star. What's a day star? A star that shines in the day? No such thing. But what the day star is actually a planet. The day star is an interesting planet, and we'll talk about it another time. But for the moment, here's the song. That's a song that I particularly like. It's a good one for singing, not only when it's dark and wet and cold in February, but also, I think, when times seem a bit hopeless and dark, perhaps, to cheer everybody up a bit in the time of COVID. Anyway, let's finish by saying together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen. Thank you for your company and for listening. I hope the rest of your day and the rest of the week